Okay, so guys, good evening, everyone. Happy 2nd of November. I hope you are doing well. It will be great if you could open your cameras and show your faces. We are, as I said, quite a little forum today, but it's really great to have you here. And some of you already met Adam and you know him, and maybe some of you watched his webinar or made a research on his LinkedIn profile. I don't know. So Adam, we are really happy that you decided to continue the conversation we had almost a month ago. And I know that it will be very impressive and inspiring for those who are going to work in modern world and global world. So I don't want to take your time and welcome. Let's start, guys.
Thank you, Galina. Indeed, very happy to be here again. I would also ask you guys to open cameras. I don't know, those of you who were here last time, you know that I have this mental issue talking to dark screens. So if you don't mind, if you're not in the bathroom, turn the camera on. And also, I want to ask, who was here last session? Eli, were you? Yeah, okay. Malka, Eugene?
I assume that Julie was present on the previous webinar and Eugene no. So we have half.
Okay, cool. So let me share screen. Okay, so as I said on my last session, I'm aiming for a session that is not too formal. So please feel free to either write questions while I talk, and then Galina can interrupt me because I don't see the chat, or unmute yourself and just stop me with comments or questions. Feel free. We'll try to have this as some sort of a discussion. At the end of each part, okay, this is how this session is built. At the end of each part, I'll give time for questions or comments anyway. So you can also feel free to write them down, and then we'll move forward. Okay, so welcome to Go-to-Market Strategy session number 2. I am Adam Weiss. I'm currently the Director of Strategy and Business Development at Mobileye. This is my full-time position. And other than that, I do freelance consulting for startups or businesses within the industries that I'm operating in. Last time that we were here, we introduced the go-to-market strategy idea, concept, and I started with the definition of it. And the definition goes, go-to-market strategy details how an organization should engage with customers to convince them to buy their product or service and to gain a competitive advantage. A go-to-market strategy includes tactics related to pricing, sales, distribution channels, and the buying journey. Usually, it's defined when dealing with new products, new audiences, or new markets. To put simple, go-to-market strategy, as I hope I showed, is basically we have a product or a service that's in point A, and we want to take it to point B. And there are many paths that we can take, okay? Commercial paths, legal paths, strategical paths. And go-to-market strategy based on research is aimed at telling us which is the right path for us, okay? In terms of revenue and time. Another quick recap for the last session, and it's recorded, and if you're interested, you can go and watch it. So in the last session, we really talked about, we introduced the 4 elements of every product on planet Earth. And we said that every product has 4 elements to it: market, distribution, customer, and the product itself. And what we showed is that according to internal criteria of the product itself, we choose the right emphasis that we want to put on the go-to-market. okay, according to how the product is disruptive and the criteria of the market that it's operating in. How young is the market, or how old is the market, and how many competitors are operating with it. It's a very big discussion we had last time, so I'm not going to go in depth. So what we talked about last session was we really focused on what we are selling. Okay, we talked about every product and its elements and how it looks like within the ecosystem that it's operating in. Today, we're going to try to cover the other two elements of go-to-market strategy, which are who are we selling to, okay, or the target audience, and how are we getting to them, which is the right channel. I hope to cover them all. We're gonna talk about what is a brand, stack positioning, user buyer differentiation, and penetration channels. So I'll just dive right into it. Brand. A brand is a name, a term, design, symbol, or any other feature that distinguishes one seller's goods or services from those of other sellers. This is by American Marketing Association. This is a nice definition, but let's talk tachlis, okay? A brand, any brand, again, on planet Earth, is a combination of a product with technical aspects to it and an emotion that is built around the product. Okay, so we have, for example, a chair, the technical aspects of a chair, that it has a place to sit, it has 4 legs to it, a place to lean on, and the emotional feelings attached to it are the values that the brand selling, the company selling the chair is trying to attach to it, okay? That this chair was owned by very rich people, or it was very popular during the Renaissance, and if you buy this chair, you're gonna be part of a very special group that understands a lot in fashion. So examples to brands, okay, this is one brand, McDonald's, and the combination of a product and emotion is, as we see here, product-wise, we have a hamburger, okay? Brand-wise, we have the Ronald McDonald. Okay, if there was the Burger King here, we would have the same product, right? But a different emotional charge to it. Rolex watch, like any other watch that we know, just tells you the time, but the value attached to this watch are values of luxury, expensive, elite group, and some sort, okay? It's a status that you want to be part of when you buy a Rolex. Nike shoes, like any other sports shoes, like Adidas, like Reebok, but what Nike, the values that Nike is trying to gain to itself, to attach to the product, is excellence, okay? If you want to be one of the best athletes in the world, you should use Nike. The way they do it, by the way, is by appropriating these values from other people like Michael Jordan, okay, who represents excellence. So they bring him in and they appropriate, menachsim, they appropriate his values to their brand. I'm just trying to switch viewer mode. Give me a second. Okay, now I'm gonna need your help. So go off, unmute yourself and tell me, Yad Stein. Okay, so we have the brand. This becomes a bit more complicated. Now we have the product. It's a website with a lot of stuff that people want to sell. Okay, what emotion or values are attached to this brand?
Ease of connection.
Okay, continue.
I need to.
I'll help you out here, okay? It's very hard. So what they did, as I said, they appropriated values. They brought Maya Wertheim, who represents young people, Tel Avivian, cool, who is very energetic, okay, as opposed to Yad Shtaim, who's considered usually to be an old website, irrelevant, and they try to revive this product through Maya Wertheim. Let's give you another example, and be with me. IBM, okay? First of all, let's talk about the simple one. What is the product?
Computers.
Okay, computers. And what is the emotion? It's okay that you're muting because there is no emotion attached to IBM. Okay, why? We will see. I just said that every brand has a product plus emotion. So IBM is clearly a brand, but without clear emotions attached to it. Let's look at this. Newmont. This is a brand you don't even know.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't even know it, but this is a brand, a company that earns about $70 billion a year. Okay, it's the biggest gold mining company in the world. It provides gold for every jewelry brand that you know, that you wear. And still, what emotions are attached to it? Ofir Oron, office and welfare. What do you say?
Logo is not connected to gold at all. So I don't know, how did they catch their own emotion?
No emotion is attached to it. Okay, so I'm just going to go back really quick. If we look at Nike, we look at Rolex, we look at McDonald's, very clear, this equation. Okay, think of G-Shock here instead of Rolex. Eli, what would you put here instead of the dollar?
Field or sport or.
That's right, because this is their target audience. Same exact watch, shows you the time. But when we look to IBM or Newmont, it's getting harder for us to tell. And this takes us to our next point, which is stack positioning. Every product or service that we sell stands somewhere on what we call the stack ladder. Okay, and you have down stack and you have up stack. Products that are completely up stack are products that are sold within the B2C, business to consumer realm. An example to that is Lenovo. Lenovo is a computer company that sells computers directly to consumers. You can go to Bag or whatever, or online and buy a Lenovo computer. But in order to sell a Lenovo computer, they need a lot of stuff. One of them are chips. Okay, who are they buying their chips from?
NVIDIA?
Intel. Okay, so Intel in this case is a B2B company operating down stack to Lenovo, selling it chips. In order to manufacture chips, Intel needs what? Copper, nechoshet. Okay, it's a type of metal. They buy it from Codelco, one of the main copper mine companies, providing copper to Intel, which provides chips based on it to Lenovo. So Codelco here is what we call a tier one company. Tier one company provides a solution to the B2B company, who provides a solution to the B2C company. Okay, and there are also cases when we have tier two, tier three, tier four, and tier five. Let's look at another example, Ford. sells vehicles directly to the consumer. You can go in a leasing shop and buy a Ford vehicle. Ford has a lot of elements to it, the vehicle. Let's talk about the tires. Who are they getting the tires from? Michelin. Okay, Michelin are selling tires to Ford. In this case, they operate as a B2B company, downstack. In order to create tires, Michelin needs what? Ophir, I'm gonna pick on you until you answer me.
I'm just listening.
Michelin needs metal for the disc in the middle, provided by Glencore, and they need rubber to manufacture, to create the actual tire, which they buy from Olam Agori, okay? Here we see two tier one companies providing Michelin to create one product. Now let's take another company. This one is fun. McDonald's. McDonald's are selling hamburgers. What are hamburgers made from?
Cows.
Cows. So they need a cow provider, right? Who's McDonald's cow provider?
Old McDonald's.
Also McDonald's. Okay, but it's actually not cow, it's meat. The meat comes from cows. Who owns the cows before it's butchered into meat? Also McDonald's. And those cows, they live on a farm. They eat, they drink, they sleep. Who owns the farm, the land?
Government.
Also McDonald's. What McDonald's did is a strategy that we call full stack. Okay, in order for them, this is a side topic, but it's interesting. In order for them to save on costs and be closer to the manufacturing chain, what McDonald's did, they started here. They purchased their way down the value chain. So they operate in tier 2, in tier 1, in the B2B, and in the B2C. Okay? And they are dependent in no one. By the way, they even own the shop that you buy in. They don't want to rent it. So they buy the real estate. So McDonald's strategy is, if there is a nuclear war and everybody dies around us, we can continue to manufacture hamburgers. Don't worry. A side question, what is easier for a company to move from a tier 1 position to a B2B or B2C, what we call move up stack, or for a company to move down stack? Strategically, what is easier? Go ahead, Ilan.
It takes less to sell to a consumer than to manufacture.
So you mean going up stack is easier?
Mm-hmm.
Galina, what do you think? I don't have enough people here, so I'm gonna...
I think the same. That is right.
You think the same. Going up stack is easier. Okay. Ophir? It's a 50-50, just guess. Up stack or down stack?
Up stack.
Up stack. Everybody says up stack. Okay. So it's not science, okay? Some people might tell you this, some people might tell you that, but the right answer is that it's easier to go down stack, not up stack. Why down stack? Because when you go down stack, basically what you're saying is that I want to now serve my own needs. I was here. I know what I need. I know what types of chips I need. I know the force of the chip. I know the technology. I know the size of the chip that I want because I buy them for 20 years now. I'm just going to manufacture them on my own. So the set of capabilities, the know-hows, the knowledge is only technical. I can bring experts to tell me how to manufacture it, but the business requirement I own. On the other hand, if Intel now decides to manufacture computers, okay? It needs to now understand working with the end consumer and how to distribute computers across the world to shops to sell them, and how to work with Black Friday sales and or October and Christmas. So there's a whole set of knowledge that when you're down stack, you're not familiar with, because you don't serve the end client or the client next in line. So we see a lot of companies going down stack. Okay, an example for that is Google that bought Android, or Apple that started manufacturing their own chips and such. If you want to go up stack, the best option you have, by the way, is by purchasing a company. So instead of teaching yourself this know-how, you just buy a company that knows how to do this, and then it shortens your time to market.
But it's not giving the company a headache because they are entering a completely new field. And they need to bring like.
So it's a headache. Both directions are headache. Okay, but when we look statistically on companies that went down stack or companies that went up stack, and there's a whole other presentation on this that we won't go into, we see clearly that statistically there are somewhat around 700% more chance of succeeding with a down stack strategy rather than an up stack strategy. Okay, let's talk about Jolt. Okay, let's say, okay, it's not the case, but let's say that Jolt has a bunch of people that are building their classes for them and they pay for it. Okay, now how easy will it be for Jolt, and this is their down stack servers, how easy will it be for Jolt to start doing it on their own? They've been buying lessons for 5 years now. They've been teaching it. They have feedbacks from people. They can just now put 5 people on a payroll, pay them maybe less money, and own the rights to the lessons. Okay, a very simple example.
But it's like creating a new business.
It's not creating a new business. It's deepening your manufacturing chain. But yes, you need to, yes, you're right. It's creating a new business. It's easier than creating a new business going up stack.
Okay.
Okay. And again, this is not rocket science. Some people might say this, some people might say that. Numbers show that companies who go down stack succeed more than companies who go up stack. If you're changing something, you have more chances going down stack. Why? Because you're familiar with the needs. Again. So now I want to connect it to our first part. We talked about brand and we talked about, you remember IBM and rubber companies and gold companies that we didn't have emotions attached to it. And why is that? And the reason for that,
they don't need to find customers.
Exactly. And we'll, you want to say that again?
Yes, I said it's because they don't need to find customers.
Okay,
They
so I'll sharpen what you're saying. When you sell to the end customer, okay, to me, to Eli, to Galina, as a consumer, there are many more emotions involved in the purchase process than when you sell to a business. So the weight, the effort that you need to put on the emotion aspect of the brand is much higher. So McDonald's, if you start believing that they're shit and junk food, okay, or if they understand that the market driver for them are kids who say, I want to eat McDonald's. So they need to put a smile on those kids' faces. This is why they invented the Happy Meal. And this is why a toy comes with every meal. Okay? They want to attach an emotion to that purchase process. When Codelco is selling copper, so the purchasing manager in Intel for the chips is not looking to get excited. And it is also naturally not getting excited because he's not buying it for himself. He's buying it within the framework of a company. So he's detached emotionally from the process. So what this shows, tries to simplify, is that the more upstack you are as a company, the more emotional your message should be. Okay, the more upstack you are, let's say B2C company, the more emotional your message should be. The competition or the competition for the consumer is around emotions. So this, the closer we are to the end consumer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I had a slide on this and I was just talking. So why is that? As I said, competition is higher, so you need to invest more on values. This is where you can be unique. The buying process is faster, so it needs to be more intuitive. When I buy copper for manufacturing chips, it's a process that's going to take me, you know, the sales cycle in a B2B is between half a year to 2 years. So any emotion I will have in that will die eventually until I will actually decide to buy, or I will be promoted or fired, someone else will come in. So emotion plays less part in it. But when you walk in a candy shop, you decide on the spot if you want to buy it or not. So it's easier to manipulate you. It's more important to manipulate you. And the purchase is personal. As I said, I buy it for myself. I don't buy it for a company, so I'm more involved in it emotionally.
This is like what behavioral economics says, that we can have a lot of data about what product is the best, but when I come to the shop, I buy iPhone because it's new and shiny and like very nice in touch. But maybe some Android phones are really better in technical issues, but personally, I go for emotions and irrational like stuff.
I told myself I'm going to be quick, but
Sorry.
No, but I won't be quick. I want to dwell on this. Let's talk about sunglasses because it's interesting. Eli, what sunglasses brands do you have?
Personally, I have Ray-Ban.
Ray-Ban. Ophir?
Now I have Carolina Lemke.
Carolina Lemke. Myself. I have Carolina Lemke as well. Galina?
I have both Ray-Ban and Carolina Lemke.
Okay, Ariel?
Also Carolina Lemke.
Only 2 brands? Okay. So I don't remember if it's 70-something% or 80-something% of the brands of sunglasses in the world are manufactured in the same factory in China. Okay? 70 to 80% are manufactured in the same factory. It's completely the same. The differentiation is the emotion attached to it, the brand, the group that we want to belong to. Now, this becomes even more true when we look at the young generation, a Generation Z, millennials, X, Y, Z, etc. Research shows that we and younger people than us are much more emotional in our purchase process. I'll give you some examples here. These are age groups, 18 to 34, 35 to 54, 55 plus. So let's see some questions. And this is by the American Advertising Association. It is important to me that companies I buy from align with my values. Let's say I care about being a vegetarian and I want to hear that my company supports it, okay? So look at the difference. The younger you are, the more important it is for you. Let's look at another example. I like it when CEOs of companies speak out on issues I care about. 76% of the millennials, okay, compared to 55%. And the list goes on. It's actually a 200-page research that shows exactly this, how millennials and younger people are much more emotional in their buying process. And this is, of course, a market driver for the industry. Companies, as a go-to-market strategy, understand that they need to put more weight on the emotion that is attached to the product rather than the quality of product itself. Okay? So this is stack positioning. Questions or comments?
It's not creating more problems for the companies to emphasize the emotionals. Like if the product is not good enough, it's gonna come out sooner or later.
I'll take what you're saying and maybe twitch it a little bit. Let's say a company promotes a certain value, but then the audience discovers that it's bullshit. They don't really mean it. Then it's a disaster. Okay? So it can't be just a facade. Companies try to do that in the past. It can't be a facade. It needs to be real. Product still needs to be good, definitely. But instead of being the best in your category in terms of product, when you talk about B2C, it's as important, or maybe in some cases even more important, to be more emotionally attached to your consumer, like Galina said about Apple. Okay? We are all convinced here, including me, by the way, that Apple is a better computer. Seriously. But technically, when you look at the spec, it's not the case. But we can swear that it's better, right? Because this is the emotion attached to it. Okay? Steve Jobs was made an idol by Apple, not for nothing. Okay, it's Steve Jobs, who is maybe 70% of the Apple brand. And he represents a certain set of values. Did I answer your question, Eli?
Yes.
Yeah? Anyone else? Okay, moving forward. So user buyer differentiation. And in the end, you will see how all of this connects. So when we sell something, okay, we have two personas operating in this purchase process. The first persona is the buyer, the person who actually buys the product, pays, takes out the check and writes it, okay? The other persona is the user, the person who's gonna use the product or service. These two personas differentiate on four elements: their position, their interests. They care about different stuff. He cares about it being comfortable to use, understandable, accessible. He might care about what?
Guarantees.
It being cheap, right? He's paying for it. Pain points, right? The user has pain points that he wants the product to fulfill. The buyer has different pain points. If it's very difficult now to purchase it, I need to send you 4 copies, handwritten, and it needs to be, the contract needs to be in Chinese, and you need 4 signatures from different lawyers. It's a headache. I don't want to get into it. The user will tell him, yeah, I want you to go into it because it's worthwhile. It's going to make my life much easier. I'm going to use it every day. And needs, okay, which is similar. Sometimes the user and buyer are the same persona. Sometimes they differentiate. They're not the same persona. In the B2C market, what is more common?
That there's the same person.
That they're the same person. That's true. In the B2B, mostly they're not the same person, right? When I buy a SaaS service, like let's say Monday or Salesforce, that sales use it, the buyer is the CEO that needs to approve it, or finance, okay? So by definition, when you operate in the B2B realm, the user and buyer are not the same people, which make your life harder because you need to decide if you're going to address in your go-to-market strategy the needs, the pain points, the interest and position of the buyer or of the user, because they're not the same person. Now I'm going to show you 3 different commercials now of the same product, Mobileye, okay, the company I work in. 3 different commercials. In each of those commercials, Mobileye takes a different position in terms of upstack, downstack. You remember B2C, B2B, tier 1, tier 2. And it's trying to sell to a different audience, a buyer or a user. So what I'm asking you to do, you can do it by heart. And if you have a pen and paper, it will be even better, okay? Because I need you to remember it. For each commercial that I'm going to show, ask yourself 3 questions. What is Mobileye's market position in this commercial? Is it a B2B or B2C? Who is the ad for? The buyer or the user? And which technical and or emotional aspects are emphasized in the ad? You remember we said that every brand has technical aspects and emotional aspects. So I want you to try and list all of those, okay? All of those aspects. If it's a hamburger, 200 grams of meat is a technical aspect. Olive oil, technical aspect. Makes you happy, emotional aspect. Cheap, only $4, technical aspect, okay? It's fluffy and a lot of unicorns around it, emotional aspect. List all of them. So we'll see, and I remind you, it's the same company, same product, and we'll see how it takes 3 different approaches. So commercial number 1.
איך מתקינים מובילאיי ב-2,100 שקלים ומקבלים עד 1,500 שקלים החזר מהמדינה? הכירו את יוסי. יוסי התקין לאחרונה מערכת מובילאיי 630 פרו ברכבו בעלות כוללת של 2,100 שקלים. מובילאיי פרסה ליוסי את הסכום ל36 תשלומים של כ-59 שקלים בחודש. עכשיו, בזמן שיוסי נוהג בבטחה, מובילאי היא זו שמיידעת את משרד התחבורה שליוסי מגיעה העדפה באיגרת הרישוי. בפעם הבאה שישלח ליוסי חידוש רישיון רכב, הוא יזכה להנחה של 700 שקלים, וגם בשנה שאחריה, ובשנה השלישית זכאי יוסי ל100 שקלים הנחה, סך הכל הנחה של עד 1,500 שקלים. יוסי, בוא נסכם את זה. המערכת עלתה 2,100 שקלים, וקיבלת החזרים ממשרד התחבורה, כך שבפועל שילמת רק 700 שקלים.
Okay, Yossi. I'm just going to remind you again. I want you to take it very seriously. There will be an exam afterwards, Eli. So don't look at the screen like this. What is Mobileye's market position? Is it B2B or B2C? Who is the ad for? Buyer or user? And which technical and or emotional aspects are emphasized in the ad? That was the first commercial. Now we go. Yes.
I'm sure the sound wasn't like, it was clear, but not for the 100%. Did you share the screen with the sound settings? Because I assume maybe we heard it from your computer, not from share screen.
Okay, Galina, now you tell me, you want me to play this commercial again or you got the point?
I don't want you to play it again. It was too much.
No, You tell me, was it clear? Should I play it again? It's important.
Guys, Eli, Leonora, I understood. I got the point, but I think for the next ones we need to check it.
Okay.
It's okay. Let's go for the other one and tell me if it's now volume, I'm sharing the volume. I think I am.
איך מתקינים
Wait.
יותר טוב.
Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad. I can't always tell, I'm just your dad. Your eyes so deep and your heart's pure gold. I turned away and now you're 20 years old. 20 years old. You are my sunshine, you are my moon. You are my saddest and happy tune. Oh God, take care of my baby girl. You be my sunrise till I
אתם תעשו
get
הכל כדי להגן
old.
עליהם.
I get old.
גם אנחנו. מובילאיי, כוכבית 4505.
If you didn't want to cry just a little bit, then you don't have a heart. I will just say that. This commercial kills me every time. And I know it for like 5-6 years maybe. Okay, that was the second commercial. Third commercial.
Time. Even 1 second can
You hear
make
well?
a world of difference. It can impact so many things. But what if you could get that time back? Studies show that collision avoidance technology could avert almost 30% of crashes. Mobileye's collision avoidance system gives you time to react. Mobileye's camera scans the road ahead and uses its IQ chip and computer vision algorithms to detect potential dangers, warning the driver with real-time alerts. Pedestrian and cyclist collision warning. Forward collision warning. Lane departure warning. Headway monitoring and warning. More than 27 million vehicles worldwide are equipped with Mobileye technology. Mobileye is a one-time investment, easy to install and can be retrofitted to almost any vehicle. It seamlessly integrates with most telematics systems. When seconds count, real-time alerts make all the difference. Bring Mobileye to your fleet today. Visit mobileye.com/fleet.
Same product. 3 different, completely different stories, completely different strategies. Okay, let's try and see if you're cooperating with me. Commercial number 1. What's the market position? B2B or B2C?
B2C.
B2C, that's right. Who is the ad for, the buyer or the user?
User.
Buyer. The buyer and, okay, the buyer and the user are the same persona here.
Yeah.
Right? Because they said that, Noam, you were with us last time, right?
Yeah, I'm now.
Yalla, put the camera on. The buyer and the user are the same persona. This is why they're talking to him directly and telling him to save on price. If you put on Mobileye, you will pay $1,600 shekels less on insurance. It's a price message, okay? Which technical and emotional, I answer this, okay? Which technical and or emotional aspects are emphasized in the ad?
Emotional, I wrote anaha. This word really like grabs our attention, and Mayer.
Good, okay.
Technical, זה היה מלא על מספרים, מחיר, חישובים, כזה.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the key emphasis here is on the technical aspect of the price. okay? But then that you can save. Emotionally, he did it with animation, okay? He tried to connect through an animated film. So they're operating in the B2C. They're talking to the buyer, who is the user in this case. Okay, so in terms of interest, they talk to the buyer interest of price. And this is the emphasis. Second commercial, B2B or B2C?
B2C.
B2C. Who is the ad for, buyer or user?
Buyer.
User.
Same.
I think the parents.
They're both the same.
Eleonora joined us, so you now will get the stage. Tell us what you did.
I think it's for the buyers because the parents, they care about their sons and daughters. So this is the emotional aspects as well. And I think it's more emotional than technical. So I think it's for them to buy a tool that would be useful to protect their family, basically.
I agree with you 100%. It was for the buyer, okay? And the buyer in this case is the parents. And when you're in the head of the parent, what is the last thing that you care about?
Price.
Price is not mentioned. What is the first thing that you care about?
Your son and
the lives of your kids, the safety of your kids. Okay, so this is the aspect that they're trying to stress in this commercial. They want to address the buyer and make them feel like shitty parents if they don't buy Immobiline. Okay, when the buyer and user were the same, the commercial was all around the discount. It could be the same person, by the way. It could be me. I'm watching it as a buyer, user, and then I can watch it as a dad. Third commercial, B2B or B2C?
B2B.
Who is the ad for, buyer or user? Maybe this is a bit complicated if you're not familiar with the industry.
I thought buyer because we want to sell it to those who will implement it to the cars. But
yeah, what we call fleet manager. We sell it to this gentleman here with the white shirt. He's not in the car, okay? So that's true. And did you notice how technical this commercial was?
yeah, and also you can save this percentage of money, blah, blah, blah. It was really focused on how much you can get from the product.
Yep, and the visualization and the numbers and the alerts. For maybe it was the first commercial who actually explained what the product does. Okay, why? Because when I buy on behalf of the company, I make a rational decision. Why? Because it's long, because it takes 2 years, because I have time, and because I'm emotionally detached. So they need to convince my brain, not my heart, to buy. Questions or comments so far? Okay, we're getting there. I think we'll be done on time. Beautiful. Now I want to talk about penetration channels. So we understood what is a brand. We work in a company now as business development directors, okay, or in charge of the strategy. So first, what we need to do is to map the brand values that we have, the technical aspects of it and the emotional aspects around it. And then we need to understand where we are, what's our position in the stack. Are we a tier 2, tier 1, B2B, B2C company? Why do we need to do that? To know, okay, to start figuring out where we need to put our weight on. The dry aspects of our product or emotions, and build an emotional story around our product. Third, we need to understand / decide, because it can change, who are we addressing, the user or the buyer? Why is that important? As I showed you, because they are different in their position, pain points, and interest. If I approach parents, I'm gonna stress the guilt. I'm gonna make them feel like shitty parents, okay? No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna stress love and caring, okay? But if I'm stressing Yossi, I'm gonna tell him how it's gonna, who thinks he's the best driver in the world. He doesn't need Mobileye, right? He's the Israeli driver. I'm the best driver in the world. I drove like a taxi driver in New York, yada, yada, yada. So what's gonna convince him? The price. And now I wanna talk about penetration channels, or to put differently, the best path to reach your audience with the message that you chose. So whether you're selling to the user or to the buyer, there are 3 penetration channels that you can go through. Bottom up, which means directly approach the target and convince him or her. Sorry for that. Sideways, which means through collaborations. And the third, Eleonora, just stay unmuted, because I'm gonna surprise you.
Upside down.
Say again, sorry?
Not upside down.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You got it right.
Top down.
Top down, okay? Which means creating pressure or force your target. These are the 3 penetration channels that you have. Now I'm gonna give you some examples to it. Let's start with bottom up. This is the most classic channel that we are all familiar with. Forget about that. Okay, bottom up. This is, I think, classic, right? Black Friday starts now. This is a commercial. You'll go online, you will see it. It approaches the buyer in a B2C market. It stresses the sale, the pricing, okay? And it's trying to convince him to do the direct buy. This is my message. I'm trying to convince you. This is what's called the bottom-up approach. Another bottom-up approach, maybe the first in modern history, the flyer on the vehicle. We're all familiar with this. A very, very simple, classic bottom-up approach. Put it on the driver's windshield. I want the buyer to see it. Okay? This is a strategy that is much more effective when you approach the buyer, whether it is also the user or not. Because translating this message through the user to the buyer is much harder. Okay, this is counting on immediate purchase process. You see the sale, you click it, you're in their funnel, and that's it. They've got you. Imagine that you're the user, you're going to take this, you're going to save the flyer in your backpack, you're going to go home, you're going to show your parents are going to put it on the table, they're going to look at it in the evening, they're going to forget it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so when you go at a bottom-up approach, you want to approach directly the buyer, not the user. Second approach, sideways, through collaborations. Okay, these are, I'm going to clarify this slide maybe because there's a lot of visuals here. The 3 top pictures that we see is a collaboration between Adidas and Lego, as an example, who created special Lego designed shoes. And below we see Reebok and Sprite. Okay? Mm-hmm. By the way, I will say in parentheses, only on this you can talk 2 hours. It's the same company selling shoes. This one decided to go with Lego. That one decided to go with Sprite. So much you can learn from the difference of their strategies. When you will use this type of sideways strategy, any idea? Take a minute.
Can you repeat the question?
When will you look for these kinds of collaborations?
Maybe when you want to approach a new target.
Eleonora.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Why were you late?
Yeah, because I have a kid who doesn't sleep.
So yes, the classic reason or motivation to do this is when you're trying to reach new markets. Okay, so instead of me now doing the heavy lifting and advertising and convincing young kids to buy Adidas and not Nike, and telling them why you're cool and finding the relevant events, you collaborate with a company that's deeply invested in that, and you appropriate their audience and their values to you. Okay? Why would Lego collaborate with Adidas, by the way?
The same target audience.
Say again?
Leonard said money.
So what happened, if you remember, first of all, money. Yes. No doubt that within this collaboration, Adidas is gaining more, okay? In terms of value recognition, brand expansion. But what happened around 10 years ago, if you remember, Lego launched adult line of Lego. Okay, Star Wars, Hero, Breaking Bad, Lego figures, and stuff like that. So they were approaching older crowds. Why, by the way? Because they realized that their younger crowd who grew up on Lego are now older. So they said, okay, they already know the experience of Lego. I want to lean on that and make them continue to buy us. Let's make it relevant to their age. So this is one, when I want to reach new markets and appropriate lenaches values. Another sideways strategy is through affiliate or what is called co-selling, okay? This is a very simple example, but there are hundreds of examples. A giant like Amazon allows for affiliate marketing. You, Eli, can go on Amazon, create your own affiliate marketing link, and start selling other people's products and get money from it. In effect, collaborate with this Chinese person that you don't even know. Why would they allow this?
Word of mouth?
No.
Make it easier to become vendors, I don't know.
So this is all about multiplying the selling power and enable scaling. If I have an Amazon shop and I have 100 people who buys from my shop a month, and I want to grow to 1,000, I need to invest a lot of real effort in marketing, okay, in research, in shipping. Instead, I can give someone 10% of the purchase and he will become my salesperson. So I'm multiplying my power, okay? So this is when I want to also operate sideways, when I want to scale, but I don't have the resources, the physical resources to do that. So I'm going to use other people's resources to help me sell my product. and they're going to get a percentage out of it. Now, the most interesting one, if you ask me, top down. Before I go to the slide, any idea what a top down example would look like? Eleonora.
Popular.
Maybe you can create pressure on someone to give something to the customers, and then their pressure is making the vendor buy it or something like that.
Okay, but can you give an example? Can you use like real products?
I don't know, like maybe if a restaurant is selling Pepsi, but everyone likes Coke, so they will ask for it, and then like the pressure will make them buy Coke.
The restaurant will buy Coke.
Yeah.
So how will Coke do it?
Like make a marketing around this issue.
So you're absolutely right. Okay, this is one of the examples. I have something similar to that. You're absolutely right. I'll start with a different example. Okay, regulation. Everybody knows this. If I am a company and I want to now scale very, very fast, the best thing I can do, in effect, actually, is push for regulation around it. One of the most famous examples in Israel is the glowing vest, okay? The company who manufactures this went to parliament members, stressed for them enforcing on vehicle importers to buy one of these for each vehicle. Why? Because they show them if you put it at night when you have a flat tire, it will reduce accidents. So they didn't go bottom up. They didn't go to any car dealer and convince them, put this, buy this to your vehicle. It's going to save your driver's lives, blah, 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 blah. They didn't try to collaborate with vehicle dealers. Maybe tell them, try to sell me to the driver. When the driver comes, sell it to them. Let's give him a 20% off. What they did is that they went to the regulator and they convinced them to make this obligatory, okay? They reduced the price, it's subsidized by the government. And now when you buy a vehicle, in effect, actually, you're already paying them for the vest. So this is a top-down approach, an example for a top-down approach. I'm not even dealing with the consumer, with the buyer, with the user. I'm gonna create effect using the regulator. Another top-down approach, and this is what I think Ariel talked about, is let's say that you operate in the tier 1 realm and you sell to B2B, who's selling to B2C up. So you want to convince the end consumer to demand Coca-Cola in the restaurant. And that pressure from the consumer, okay, from the upstack consumer, will make them come to the provider and tell them, okay, I don't want Pepsi, I want Coke. All of my consumers are asking for Coke. What do I want? What can I do? An example for that is Intel. Intel did a great top-down strategy along the years. They are a tier 1 company. They sell chips to computer manufacturers, but instead of convincing Lenovo to buy Intel chips and HP to buy Intel chips and Acer and whatever, they spent millions on marketing to people that are not their clients. And they made us, the end consumers, think that when we buy a laptop, we want to look for an Intel Inside computer. So we create the demand. We put pressure on Lenovo and HP to work with Intel. So this is a top-down approach that is not through the regulator. I'll show you also a commercial by Intel. I think I showed it the last session as well, but under a different context. Look at this commercial. And again, I remind you, Intel is not even selling chips to the end consumer, but yet they're publicizing to the end consumer. And now we understand why.
This symbol outside means you have the standard inside that an entire library of software has been written to. The Intel microprocessor. Think of it as a library card that lets you run the software of today and tomorrow. So check out Computers with Intel, the computer inside.
Check out Computers with Intel. This is the sentence. I remember when I was little and I bought a computer. I went with my dad to the shop and I told him we need only Intel. I knew nothing about technology. I didn't know how to restart a computer. All I knew was that it needs to be with Intel. I swear to God. So this is a top-down approach or strategy. A little bit about pros and cons about these channels, okay? There's a lot to be said on this. I tried to simplify it. Let's talk about bottom up. Bottom up, you remember, when you approach directly the buyer with sales, with promotions, with whatever. So in terms of pros, as a company, you gain deep understanding of your customer because you interact with it directly. You correspond with him, you have a discourse with the client, and then you can improve your product according to the feedback. You enhance brand awareness because it necessarily means making a lot of noise. Okay, think about the flyers on the vehicles. Controlled budgets, you know exactly what you're spending, where you're spending it, and on what, as opposed to collaborations. Okay, if I work with a partner who needs his own spending and he has other priorities. And it's very measurable because you have all the data. You can fast iterate and understand what works more, what works less. So sometimes a company, in order to understand actually the value of the product or how customers react to it, they will look for a bottom-up approach just for the feedback stage. Okay? The cons, that it's a lot of effort. You need to do everything on your own. Okay? It's very expensive from the same reason, because you do everything on your own. And slow scalability, because you depend only on your own resources. And you need to approach every buyer on its own. Buyer, 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 buyer. Sideways, when we collaborate, the advantage is that we appropriate values and capabilities, okay, like what we saw with Reebok and Lego, or Adidas and Lego. And we reach new audiences that would be sometimes impossible for us to reach. The cons is that we are detached from the customer. We learn nothing about the customer. We're not in full control. Think about outfitters. There was their name who paid Benel Tavori to be their ambassador. And then there was the recordings that he talks about his son. You know what I'm talking about? Benel וסטטיק נפרדו. Wow, you guys are very intellect. Never mind. Let's think that I'm a brand owner and I bring a celeb to represent me. And then this celeb is mixed with a scandal. It affects my brand. Yeah, Leonora, you wanted to say something?
No, I just remind about, yes, a celebrity who stopped his collaboration with Adidas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of his statement. So, yeah.
Kanye West, okay? Kanye West was now fired. Why? The brand was not in control. When you collaborate with someone, you're not in control on what they do, if it's a person or another company. You receive lower margins or profit because you need to share revenues with your partner, and lower brand credit because if eventually you divide attention. Okay, you're gonna work with Lego, but the price that you pay is that you don't only get Lego's brand recognition, but you also give Lego your own brand recognition, and you divide it. So when I buy Adidas shoes, my next shoes won't necessarily be Adidas. They will be Lego with someone else. So the loyalty that I gain for my brand is lower. Top down, high scalability, okay? If I create a regulation, I want the market. That's it. And it can eliminate competition really fast. Why? Because through the regulator, I can create the standards. The glowing vest, it needs to be this and this centimeters and this size. It has to cost under 20 shekels per vest. And my competition, who manufactures this differently, all of a sudden becomes irrelevant. So I can kill competition really, really quick. The cons, it's a very long and expensive cycle. Okay, this process can take 5 years sometimes for both what Intel did to create this awareness pressure and regulation. So if you're a startup, this is not your go-to-market strategy. Okay, this you would see fat corporates do it, like oil companies, Cisco, Intel, okay, Microsoft, all these companies that can afford lobbyists to run and operate for 5-10 years. Yeah, Leonora?
Yeah, no, I have a question about on the sideways.
Go ahead.
Because I think that maybe for a startup that wants to collaborate with a brand that is well known, maybe it could be a good strategy, because then you get like a kind of recognition. So it could be, I think it could depend also on the two parts, no? So if I don't know if, for example, Airbnb works with slow food. They started this collaboration, so I understand they are quite similar. They are very known brands, so they work together. So I understand the lower brand credit. But if we have another small NGO company working with Airbnb, maybe it could be a good strategy, because in this way they gain recognition.
You're absolutely right.
First the point is that why Airbnb wants to work with the small company.
Not a lot of incentives for Airbnb to work with a small company. Not a lot of incentives, unless this small company or NGO, okay? NGO it's a completely, actually Airbnb will have a lot of incentive to work with an NGO. Why? Because we talked about the emotional aspect of the, okay, especially around millennials who are the future customers of Airbnb. They want to be attached to this brand. So when I go to Italy and I have this option of going to a hotel by Hilton or Airbnb, I won't just go to Airbnb because it's cheaper, right? I'm going to Airbnb because it's cooler, it's younger, it connects me to the community. I see how people live. There's a whole set of values around the experience of Airbnb. Small startups has a lot of interest to work sideways, like you said, because they don't really care about the margin now. They can lose money, but they want to get brand recognition and they want to gain market share. They don't have their own marketing efforts, big sales teams, so they're going to look for collaboration. Okay? Top-down cons, so it's a very long and expensive cycle, low chance of success, it can backfire, okay? If you realize that, let's say, a taxi, no names, okay? An app that provides you services to order a taxi. Now works with the regulator to ban the entry of Uber to a certain country because it's a shared economy competition. If you discover it, okay, and there are a lot of chances that you will discover it as the end customer because it's a long process, then it will backfire. Then you will hate that brand and you will go to the competition. And fourth, and this is very important, people look down at this, but this is very important, or they don't treat it seriously. It leads to product mediocrity, benoniut, okay? If you count on your market share only through regulation, in the end, it means that you will lean back and you won't improve yourself. And a better competitor will eventually come and kill you and will the market. So even if you go through, and we see this happening a lot, so even if you go through a top-down approach and the regulator, you need to make sure that it's not instead of working directly with the customer, getting to know him and his needs, understanding their motivation and improving the product accordingly. Okay. That's it, actually. So, questions or comments?
It sounds like the top-down approach. It's not violent, but it's like pretty much against the customer. You know, it's not against, but it's like it's very aggressive to the customer. From what I heard.
Well, you know, when you go and drink now a glass of water from the faucet, you know what comes out with the water?
Avnit?
Fluoride. Okay, it's healthy for the teeth. They inject it to the water. They do it a lot more in the United States. Why? It's a regulation decision. Who pushed for it? The company who manufactures this and sells it. So yeah, it's definitely in some times it's violent and against you. In other times it's a win-win situation. And in third times it doesn't really affect you. But yeah, it's not the nice approach. I agree. But for a company who's looking at their main point in achieving market share and making money and growing, it's a viable option. It's a viable strategy that we should be familiar with. Okay, so yeah, Eli, you want to say something? Or okay, so to summarize this session, we talked about what is a brand, which is constructed out of technical and emotional aspects. Then we mapped the stack positioning from tier 2, or it could be tier 10, all the way to B2C. We talked about user-buyer differentiation and that they're different in 4 elements: their position, interest, pain points, and needs. We saw how these two, point 2 and 3, dramatically affect the values or aspects that we will choose to stress around our brand. If we operate in the B2C market, okay, then we would put a lot more attention on the emotional aspect and vice versa. Okay, if we are deep in the tier 2 B2B market, it's all about technical, because the buying the purchase process is long, it's rational, and we are detached from it. And then we talked about penetration channels. All of the channels are viable. You can use all 3 at the same time, okay? Or you can use each of them in different stages of your product life. If you want to learn about your customer, you're going to use a bottom-up approach. When you're low on resources, you're going to use the sideways approach. When there is a heavy competition that you want to eliminate, maybe you're going to use the top-down approach. And that's it. These are 4 more elements to the go-to-market strategy. I think we're done.
Oh, we're actually done. Any questions you want to ask before we go out? Live?
Yeah, I have one. It sounds like there's a lot of psychology and understanding the human behavior to decide what strategy are you going when you're deciding on go-to-market strategy. So I wanted to ask, who is in charge of this decision? Like, who is the responsible and the person who knows how to analyze the market and the customers and like, who is the authority within the company?
Very good question. It changes between companies. Some companies put this responsibility on the marketing team, and they have what you call a strategical marketing team. They do also the market research, the client persona, and around this, they provide insights. And then those insights, they can show it to the CEO, to the VP or whatever, and it's approved. But it's around marketing. In other companies, marketing is more of an execution branch. Okay, they're in charge of the actual campaigns on LinkedIn, Facebook, conferences, events, but they extract their actions through the strategy that is given to them by corporate strategy. Okay, so you will have a director of strategy or VP strategy, and they will do the analysis, the research, the report, which will then be translated into a marketing campaign to sales efforts and such. So it varies between one company and another. There is no right or wrong answer. Usually having your own, director of strategy, that this is what he does or she does, is a luxury of a bigger, more profitable companies, because it's just another paycheck, another salary to buy. Startups are usually, who leads this is the CEO, together with the VC that's supporting them. This is a very important part that the VCs are playing, consulting on strategy. Okay, so it changes. And many companies, to tell you the truth, just don't do that. Many companies just don't do that. They operate not in order to be the best in the market, but just to be in the market, and they look to the sides and they do what their competitors do, which is also okay. But if you're trying to be a leader in your category, then every action you do has to be a side effect of a very clear, defined go-to-market plan. Okay, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Adam. And it feels that this is like the field that you become professional with experience. Like, it's very hard to learn that subject, but when you see more and try more as a customer, as a competitor, as a business owner, or some other part of any company, it sticks. And one day just understand that you can catch these small tricks and you can define different communication strategies. So really interesting and inspiring to go further. So thank you very much for having this conversation, for hosting this webinar. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today and for your questions, for your ideas, and good luck for everyone. Next steps. Yep. Have a great rest of the week.
Yeah, just guys, if you have any question or comments or I don't know, things you want to consult on in your own jobs or careers, feel free. With pleasure, really.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Thank you all. So let's go home. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.